Hello and welcome to the agenda. I am Ajay Kaul. In this program today we will talk about the turmoil in Afghanistan and how China is trying to take advantage of the situation. In recent weeks in Afghanistan, Taliban have increased their attacks and have been making advances by capturing several districts. It is nobody's guess that the Taliban wants to capture power in Kabul through military force so that it can rule the entire Afghanistan. Meanwhile, China, the closest friend of Pakistan, is also getting active in the affairs of Afghanistan. So what does all this mean? We will try to analyze this in the agenda today. We have with us Idris TataSky, a prominent activist and analyst of Afghanistan. He is joining us from Afghanistan. From Delhi, we are joined by defense expert, retired Major General Rajan Kochar. But before we start our discussion, I will look at this small report.
With American forces in the exit mode, Taliban is on the rampage in Afghanistan. It has escalated attacks and violence in its quest for power through their military force. Even as it remains engaged in peace talks, the extremist militia is attacking Afghan government forces besides killing prominent people and intellectuals to spread terror across the country. According to the reports from Afghanistan, Taliban carry out hundreds of attacks daily on the government forces and several districts and regions of Afghanistan have been witnessing intense fighting between the Taliban and Afghan defense forces, triggered by attacks by the militia. Some districts have fallen into the hands of Taliban, with the government forces retreating. Government forces have also killed hundreds of Taliban fighters, but the terrorist group is posing a huge challenge for them to overcome. Now, in a new dimension, China is showing increasing interest in the affairs of Afghanistan. It first proposed sending its troops to Afghanistan as peacekeepers after the exit of American troops by September 11. Now it has offered to host peace talks between the Afghan government and the Taliban. Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi has made the offer during his telephonic talk with his Afghan counterpart and the Pakistani counterpart. This is very significant given that Taliban is a proxy of China's close ally, Pakistan, which wants the militia to rule Afghanistan again and provide a buffer for Pakistan's terror sanctuaries. Bureau Report.
Now let's welcome our guests, Idris TataSky from Afghanistan and General Kochar from Delhi. Welcome to both of you. So I'll first go to Idris TataSky about the situation in Afghanistan. We hear that Taliban has increased its assaults and attacks on government forces and also on intellectuals like judges, journalists and others, lawyers. So please give us the status of this situation there.
Unfortunately, since the start of the peace talks, the violence has really gone, but the Americans are calling it violence. We don't know what action really means. And from the start of the Doha talk, people were against it because it was not a peace process, it was a peace project. Why we call it a project? Because the Afghan people were not here, the Afghan government was not here. It was a contract between the Americans and the ISI. The Doha office for the ISI office, not Taliban representative. So since they have started the peace talk, trying to get more violence, trying for more IEDs, and car bombs, because Taliban believes in violence. The more attacks, the more we kill, the more we get power in the peace process. Unfortunately, we have been witness to the attack on girls' school in Kabul. Unfortunately, where 100 girls were assassinated, killed, martyred, and this is what they have been giving upon people as a gift and result of the peace talks.
So you mentioned about ISI role. I mean, you mentioned about Pakistan role. Pakistan is, Taliban is a proxy of Pakistan. So is there kind of deal between Pakistan and America, because that is why Trump government signed that deal? Was, I mean, we know Pakistan brokered that deal, but isn't it that deal between Pakistan and America? What do you say?
Yeah, it seems like that. Yes, from the they were friends, and now they become friends with the Taliban. Unfortunately, they always give internet and coverage to a terrorist like Taliban. They could travel freely, they could speak freely, they could participate in conferences, and that are promoting the even. We have been witness that New York Times wrote a piece for Hana Sakhani and show him hero. So these terrorists suddenly become heroes.
Yeah.
So it's because they become friends with America. From our legal services. They say that in the past 1 year, no one has been killed, and Taliban have promised America that they will be protecting American bases inside Afghanistan, so no other terrorist group will attack them. So if this is not a setup, this is not a friendship behind it, this is not Americans in that, what this is it?
So basically, this is deceived by America. So before I come back to you, I'll go to General Kocher is here. So General Kocher, you heard what Idris Tanixai was telling us about Pakistan role, ISI role, and America, how America, I mean, perhaps played a deceitful role. What do you say on this situation?
You see, from the outset, I feel that United States Afghanistan policy has been a failure. It is actually akin to how they failed in Vietnam and other areas. Now, since the focus of the United States has changed in recent times towards the Pacific and the South China Sea, and with the threat of Chinese looming large and forays of the Chinese spy into the US technology, the US wanted to get out of Afghanistan, and before it decided to actually go out, it wanted to create a stable environment so that talks with the Taliban, with the government of Afghanistan, with the United States and Pakistan, could create a conducive situation for the United States to withdraw. But it is not seeming likely.
But General, I may interrupt you here. In the Doha talks, the government of Afghanistan was nowhere in the picture.
Because Taliban didn't want to have the government of Afghanistan there for the peace talks. This itself has been flawed.
But why did America accept it?
America is accepting it because of its urgency to withdraw.
Right.
And the stand of the Indian government has been very, very clear that the government of Afghanistan has to be part of the talks.
Right.
Because if the government of Afghanistan will not be there as part of the talks, it will result in a state of anarchy. Afghanistan will go back 20 years. What Afghanistan was earlier, it will revert back, and it is not in the interest of either Afghanistan or India to accept this. So the stand must be very, very clear that the government of Afghanistan has to be a part of the talks, and unless that happens, there cannot be a way forward.
Right. So, Idris Tanixai, I come back to you. So, about when we talk about the government, I'll rather say the elected government of Afghanistan was nowhere in the picture in these talks, and at the same time, the role of Khalilzad, I mean, who's the special envoy of US, his role is also questionable and maybe dubious, because apparently he always plays ball with the Taliban and Pakistan. What do you say? He's never in favor of the government of Afghanistan. What do you say?
Well, from the beginning, when we heard about the I thought that he is an Afghan originally, but after what we saw in the discussion, we saw the Khalil Zad wanted nothing but the benefit interest of the American. You know, the policy from the beginning, unfortunately, that has always been about the interest and benefits of Americans while we are partners, while we have a security agreement. That security agreement, the Americans have promised that if Afghan soil is attacked from any other country, they will be defending Afghan soil.
Right.
20 years, since 20 years, when after being shot by the Pakistani rocket, you know that the media is aware, everyone is aware of it. But the Americans don't see hundreds of rockets per year. You see nothing. So since the beginning, the policy was not pro-Afghan. The policy 20 years when they started to Afghanistan, the policy of the Americans were pro-Pakistan. They have promises to the Pakistanis, so they are keeping those promises. I don't see Khalilzad very trustable person to Afghanistan about the Afghan government, because what Khalilzad does, he accepts the time, he makes promises that this thing will happen positive, that reduction in violence, and if the 5,000 prisoners from Taliban's very dangerous prisoners, including drug mafia,
Right.
if they are released, then there will be permanent ceasefire. But what happened? There is no permanent ceasefire, there is no ceasefire, even there is no reduction in violence. There is a lot of increase of violence,
Right.
more killings. Our people are getting killed every day, the young talent. And it's Taliban. What did the West say on Israel and Palestine? Nothing. They are blaming Palestine. So the world, especially West, what they believe or what they say is different. They say human rights, they say women rights, they have values. But when it comes to reality, we see there is no values but interests and benefits of just the Americans in the West.
Yes, Tanexai, one more thing about, you see, Al-Qaeda, one of the main conditions of that agreement between US and Taliban was that Taliban will snap its ties with Al-Qaeda. Has Taliban done that? I don't think so. What do you say?
No, because the American intelligence is saying that they still have very, very close ties to Al-Qaeda,
Right.
to other terrorist groups, not just Al-Qaeda, including IS. You are having ties. It is the Houthi network who's been, preparing all these attacks to Daesh, to ISIS, to Al-Qaeda. Taliban are very close friends to them. So if they are not, losing ties with Al-Qaeda, if they are not accepting votes of the people, if they don't accept women rights, if they don't accept the 20 years what we have gained, so how could we come to peace with the terrorists? It's not possible. The legitimacy, unfortunately, the legitimacy is being given to Taliban by the West.
Right. So, General Kochar, I come to you. We talked about the Taliban links with Al-Qaeda. And was the US trying to fool the world or trying to fool itself by saying that Taliban will snap ties with Al-Qaeda? Is it possible? Is it feasible? What do you say?
My assessment is that I do not think these ties will snap. It's only a projection being made by the United States that the Taliban will do away with Al-Qaeda. They are their ideologies are the same. When the ideology is the same and the aims are the same and the objectives are the same, how can you expect two such militant groups to part ways? And Al-Qaeda adds strength to Taliban. At the same time, I would also like to caution you here, with the Pakistan involvement with Taliban, very soon the Chinese will also get involved.
Yeah, I'm going to discuss about Chinese angle later.
Okay.
But first on Taliban.
We will discuss that.
Yeah.
Taliban will be hand in glove with the Al Qaeda. This is my assessment. Right now, it may be being done clandestinely, but in times to come, as soon as the United States is going to leave, you are going to see a consolidation of this relationship.
So one more point, Stanisla, I come to you about recent Kabul attack, this on the school, where it was the blame was put on ISIS or IS, whatever it's called. Isn't it a kind of deflection? I mean, the West, as you mentioned earlier, now trying to give a good Taliban picture or good terrorist cloak to
And that's
Taliban to save it and put the blame on IS. What do you say?
one of the lead, one of the representatives of Taliban. He in Doha said in one of that if there is any major attack in Kabul or any other major city of Afghanistan, the only capability who has to do it is the Taliban. No other terrorist group has the capability to do major attacks. So this means black flag. Doesn't matter. At the end of the day, it is Pakistan and it is the Taliban who combined are fighting against Afghanistan. Just look at the history. In the past 20 years, the Taliban who have been the enemy of school, like hundreds of schools were burned.
Right.
Who girls going to schools were treated, killed. So it is the history of Taliban. I think if they come, they say, "Oh, not act." Who would believe them that it's not? Everyone knows it is them. They have conducted such attacks before, and will do more. So I would say again, if it's the white flag or if it is the black, at the end of the day, it's the Pakistanis and the Taliban together against one nation.
Right, as you mentioned Pakistan, now we come to about China's role. China is apparently now becoming more active. So
Yeah.
it says that we will host intra-Afghan talks. Earlier they said we will send a peacekeeping force after Americans leave. There will be vacuum and all that. So how do you see Pakistan's role? I mean, China is closest ally of Pakistan. So it will be a China-Pakistan tango in Afghanistan. What do you say?
Well, we cannot deny that China in the world. They have effects. The Chinese foreign minister in Afghanistan were talking on in the Chinese promise that if needed, it will be helping Afghan security forces, in Afghan security forces to fight terrorism because they are also afraid of terrorism. But the key point is that if the Chinese wants to fight terrorism, if they are really afraid of terrorism, and if they are against it, they must cut ties with the Pakistanis. They must stop supporting them with billions of dollars in investment.
Right.
Because in this region, particularly, it is the only country who produces terrorism, and that's Pakistan. So if Chinese wants a friendship with the Afghan people, a true friendship, so you cannot, we have a saying, a proverb in Afghanistan that you cannot take two watermelons in one hand. So, it can't be like this. The Americans has done the same and has been fit. Like the Americans been good friends with the Pakistanis, and it does that you're good friends with the Afghans too. So this won't work.
Right. So, Mr. General Kochar, as I mentioned about the China angle, so it will be a China-Pakistan tango because I don't think China will be having any sincerity for the real peace in Afghanistan. What do you say? And as Stanisla also mentioned that if China is so sincere, then they should stop supporting Pakistan, which is the root cause of terrorism in Afghanistan and entire region.
See, you have to understand why China is interested. Geographically, if you look at Afghanistan, it is a gateway into South Asia. And it's a country which is very strategically placed. At the same time, China is progressing its CPEC into Pakistan, as also it is going to be very beneficial for its Belt Road Initiative. So it has become important for China now because China sees a window of opportunity with the US moving out. And China has the wherewithal, it has the resources, it has the money, it has got everything, pump into Afghanistan and become an influencing factor there. So we need to be wary of this design because in times to come it is going to manifest itself. I have no doubt about it.
Right. So as you mentioned that US is afraid about US wants to focus on Indo-Pacific region because it is afraid of China's growing aggressiveness or belligerence in that region. But at the same time, they are creating a vacuum in Afghanistan and Central Asia and this area by when leaving. But so they are creating a vacuum which China wants to fulfill there. I feel there. So how do you see that situation? Is it a wrong strategy by America then? General Kocher.
This question?
Yeah,
Okay.
General, yeah.
Okay, see, you have to see every country looks at this interest. Why did America enter Afghanistan? Because at that point of time, uh, because of Osama bin Laden and all those role of Al Qaeda and what the attack that took place in America. So it was important at that point of time for the US to get into it.
No, I'm talking about
And
the, I mean, current strategy by America by leaving, I mean, exiting Afghanistan. So they are, they will be creating a vacuum, no? Strategic vacuum or security vacuum.
now the United States has got hardly any interest left in Afghanistan because United States has not been able to achieve the mandate it actually set itself.
Right,
So it has realized that it is going to be a futile effort for the United States to continue staying in Afghanistan
right,
because a lot of money and the resources of the United States are spent here. Their economy is also getting affected there. So, with the coming of the new administration, and Trump also desired that. So, the new administration is also for the same policy. Since America has got nothing more to achieve there, and even by staying there, America is not going to achieve anything. So, they have decided to move out. They have no concern where Afghanistan goes into the future now.
right. So, Stanisla, I come to you. We have only 1 minute left, maybe less than 1 minute. So, about the Taliban making advances, are the defense forces of Afghanistan not able to cope, or what is the problem that we have seen that government forces retreating from various places, various districts? Maybe less than 1 minute, you can.
I mean, it is what there is no daily or daily is 50 to 100 attacks on different areas of Afghanistan where the forces are standing tall in time the enemies. The constant, and we trust that they will defend our country for no reason. Taliban will take any city or any other major district by force.
Right. So, Afghan forces have a big challenge at hand, but I guess they will use all forces, and President Ghani will use all resources.
Well, since the past 1 year, American forces were not in war, as no American was killed.
Right. But I think they carried some air raids.
It's been just the armed forces defending. We defended Helmand, like there was our young Afghan journalists. We defended Kandahar and Gandhar. We will defend every corner of
Right. We have full confidence in Afghan forces there, but the situation is very difficult. But this is all the time we have in this program today. Thank you, both of you, for participating in this debate.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This is all in the agenda today. Thanks for watching. I'll be back with another important topic tomorrow. Till then, goodbye.